It was a beautiful summer day when my friends and I decided to embark on an adventure that would forever change our lives. We were an ordinary group of internet-savvy friends who loved exploring nature, and we planned a camping trip to a secluded national park. The promise of pristine wilderness, starry nights, and the thrill of disconnecting from our digital lives was enticing. Our journey began with the usual online research and group chats. We scoured websites for information about the park, sharing articles, maps, and photos. The park was known for its untouched beauty and rare wildlife, and we couldn't resist the allure. Our plans were set, and we eagerly discussed what gear to bring and which hiking trails to explore. On the day of the trip, we gathered our equipment, double-checked our provisions, and loaded up the car. It was a long drive, but our excitement was palpable. We exchanged messages, snapping pictures and joking about our adventure ahead. I posted a quick update on social media, sharing our departure and telling everyone we'd be off the grid for a few days. As we arrived at the park, our cell phone signals began to weaken, but we didn't think much of it. We found a secluded campsite in a lush, green clearing near a babbling brook, far from the hustle and bustle of the more popular areas. We set up our tents, lit a campfire, and began to roast marshmallows, reveling in the beauty of the untouched wilderness. Night fell, and the stars shone brilliantly in the clear sky. It was exactly what we had hoped for, a perfect night in the great outdoors. We sat around the campfire, sharing stories and laughter, occasionally checking our phones to see if we had any remaining signal. Unfortunately, it seemed our devices were truly out of service. Then, a strange feeling washed over us. We noticed faint sounds in the distance, like rustling leaves and snapping twigs. We dismissed it at first, thinking it was just the wind or an animal. But as the noises grew closer, we realized we were not alone in the park. With an uneasy glance at each other, we huddled together, trying to decipher what was happening. The shadows of approaching figures emerged from the darkness, and our hearts raced as we realized there was a group of strangers heading our way. We quickly extinguished the campfire and hid behind trees, unsure of their intentions. The strangers were armed and carried lanterns, creating an eerie atmosphere in the pitch black wilderness. They spoke in hushed, agitated tones. We couldn't hear their words clearly, but their presence was unsettling. Were they park rangers, poachers, or something else entirely? As the strangers drew closer, we decided it was best to stay hidden and silent, fearing that any noise might draw their attention. The tension in the air was palpable as they passed by our campsite, seemingly unaware of our presence. We watched them vanish into the night, but we dared not move or speak. Hours passed, and the strangers didn't return. We finally emerged from our hiding spots, shaken and scared. The atmosphere had shifted, and our campfire was now cold and lifeless. We debated whether to pack up and leave immediately, but our curiosity got the better of us. We needed to understand who these people were and why they were in the park. We spent the rest of the night in anxious anticipation, each small rustling leaf or distant animal noise sending our hearts racing. We didn't dare to light another fire or make any noise that might reveal our presence. Morning brought no answers, just a growing sense of unease. As the sun rose, we gathered our belongings and quietly began to hike toward the direction the strangers had come from. We followed their tracks, hoping to find some clue about their intentions. It was clear they had been moving through the wilderness with purpose, and we couldn't shake the feeling that they were connected to something more sinister. The further we ventured into the park, the more the landscape began to change. The once pristine wilderness gave way to signs of human activity, discarded trash, makeshift campsites, and even markings on trees. It became apparent that these strangers were not here to enjoy the natural beauty of the park. They were here to stake a claim, possibly illegally. Fear gnawed at our hearts as we realized the dangerous predicament we had unwittingly stumbled into. Our friends decided to backtrack and leave the park, fearing for our safety. We retreated cautiously, our every step filled with trepidation, all the while keeping a watchful eye for any sign of the hostile strangers. Our escape was nerve-wracking as we felt pursued the entire way back to our campsite. But somehow, we made it there without encountering the strangers again. We hurriedly packed our gear and left the campsite behind, vowing to report the suspicious activity to the authorities once we reached civilization. As we drove away from the park, we couldn't help but reflect on how our peaceful camping trip had turned into a real-life thriller. We had experienced the chilling uncertainty of the wilderness and the potential dangers that lurked just beyond the shadows. Our adventure in that secluded national park had left us with more questions than answers. Who were those strangers and what were they doing in the park? We never found out, but one thing was certain: we had been unwitting participants in a story that would forever be etched in our memories as the night in the wilderness that tested our mettle and changed our perspective on the great outdoors. It was a tranquil evening, and I was looking to unwind after a long day at work. As an average internet user with a passion for nature and photography, I often found solace in the local park. The lush greenery, the gentle sway of trees, and the soothing sounds of birds created the perfect setting for an evening walk. Little did I know that my peaceful routine would soon spiral into a nightmare that I could never have imagined. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the park, I decided to take a leisurely stroll along one of my favorite paths. Armed with my smartphone for potential photo opportunities and a pair of headphones, I began my journey. The park was usually a serene and welcoming place, a refuge from the stresses of everyday life. About halfway into my walk, I noticed someone walking in the opposite direction on the same path. It was not unusual to encounter fellow walkers, joggers, or dog owners in the park, and I thought nothing of it. However, as the person drew nearer, I felt a distinct sense of discomfort. Their intense, unbroken gaze fixated on me, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I tried to shake off the unease, attributing it to my overactive imagination. Maybe they were just lost in thought or distracted. But as they passed me, their eyes bore into mine, and I couldn't help but turn to look back at them. I noticed that they had stopped a few paces away and were still watching me. My heart quickened, and I knew something was amiss. I continued on my walk, deliberately taking a different route in the hope of avoiding any further encounters with the stranger. I couldn't shake the eerie feeling that their gaze had left with me, a lingering sense of vulnerability. I convinced myself that I was just being paranoid, that it was a mere coincidence. As I reached a more densely wooded section of the park, I paused to take a few photos of the beautiful, dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. It was a perfect opportunity to capture the natural beauty that I often shared on my social media accounts. Lost in the moment, I was unaware of the figure that had silently approached from behind. I felt a sudden, cold breath against my neck, and my heart leaped into my throat as I spun around. It was the stranger from earlier, standing a mere foot away. Panic surged through me as I took in their wild, unblinking eyes and the unsettling smile that twisted their lips. In a trembling voice, I demanded to know what they wanted. But the response I received was far from reassuring. They spoke in a low, raspy whisper, revealing an obsession that sent a chill down my spine. They had been watching me for some time, studying my routines, and they were determined to make me a part of their life. It was a declaration of possession, and the words made my blood run cold. Without a moment's hesitation, I turned and sprinted away from the stranger. My mind raced, and all I could think about was finding safety. I had no idea who this person was or what they were capable of, but their behavior and words had set off every alarm in my mind. I darted through the woods, not daring to look back, my heart pounding in my chest. The park, once a place of solace and peace, had transformed into a terrifying labyrinth. It felt as though the trees themselves were closing in around me, hiding me from my pursuer. Minutes turned into what felt like hours as I navigated the dense underbrush and muddy terrain. My phone, which I had dropped during my escape, was now my lifeline to reach out for help. I desperately fumbled to retrieve it, my trembling fingers struggling to dial 911. My voice shook as I explained the situation to the dispatcher, praying that help would arrive in time. The dispatcher assured me that police were on their way and advised me to find a safe place to hide until they arrived. With renewed determination, I continued to evade my stalker, keeping to the shadows and the densest cover I could find. As I hid among the trees, I could hear my pursuers' distant, haunting whispers and their eerie laughter. It sent a shiver down my spine, and I knew that I was being hunted by someone who was truly unhinged. The minutes crawled by and I clung to my phone, anxiously awaiting the arrival of the police. Finally, the sound of sirens in the distance signaled that help was on its way. I carefully emerged from my hiding spot, keeping a close eye on my surroundings. The police arrived swiftly, and they took my report and descriptions of the stalker. They assured me that they would launch an investigation and do everything in their power to ensure my safety. Over the following days, the police worked tirelessly to identify and locate the individual who had targeted me. The incident had left me deeply shaken, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being constantly watched, even within the safety of my own home. I had to take precautions to protect my privacy, such as adjusting my social media settings and being vigilant about my online presence. The police eventually apprehended the stalker, who turned out to be a disturbed individual with a history of stalking and harassment. My testimony, along with evidence they collected, played a crucial role in securing their arrest. The ordeal left a lasting impact on me, reminding me of the dark side of the online world and the dangers that can lurk in the shadows. I became an advocate for online safety, sharing my experience on social media to raise awareness about the importance of safeguarding personal information and staying vigilant in the digital age. While the incident had left me scarred, I was determined not to be defined by fear. I continued to enjoy my walks in the park surrounded by the beauty of nature, knowing that I had the strength to overcome the darkness that had briefly enveloped me. My experience serves as a stark reminder that, even in the serene surroundings of a local park, one can encounter the unexpected and unsettling. It's a lesson that has changed my perspective on personal safety and the importance of staying vigilant, both online and in the physical world. Being a regular internet user and a dedicated pet owner, I had always appreciated the stories of heartwarming reunions between lost pets and their owners. Little did I know that I was about to become the protagonist of a story that would test my resilience, determination, and love for my four-legged friend. My faithful companion, Lucky, a small but spirited Jack Russell Terrier, had been my source of joy for years. Our daily walks in the nearby park were our bonding time, a ritual that we both cherished. On a crisp Saturday morning, I leashed Lucky and set out for our usual stroll in the park. Little did I know that our lives were about to take an unexpected turn. As we ventured deeper into the park, Lucky's boundless energy was evident. He darted around chasing squirrels and enjoying the outdoors to the fullest. I was immersed in the tranquility of the park, taking in the vibrant colors of nature when I noticed Lucky had wandered a bit farther than usual. Not thinking much of it, I called out to him, expecting him to return promptly. But minutes turned into an hour, and there was still no sign of Lucky. Panic began to set in as I searched the park frantically, calling his name until my voice was hoarse. I enlisted the help of other parkgoers, but despite our combined efforts, Lucky remained elusive. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. I decided to head home, devastated and filled with anxiety. That evening, I plastered the park and nearby areas with lost dog flyers, posted pleas on social media, and reached out to local animal shelters and veterinarians. The outpouring of support from the online community was heartwarming, but Lucky was still missing. It was 3 agonizing days later that I received a message that would turn this already harrowing experience into a living nightmare. My phone chimed with a notification, and my trembling hands unlocked the screen to reveal a sinister, anonymous message. The sender claimed to have Lucky and demanded a substantial ransom in exchange for his safe return. The message was chilling and unapologetic, leaving no room for doubt that this was not a cruel prank but a real threat. I was faced with an impossible decision, whether to pay the ransom and risk supporting criminal activity or to involve the authorities and risk the safety of my beloved pet. Torn between my love for Lucky and my moral compass, I decided to take action that balanced both concerns. I reported the ransom demand to the local police, providing them with the message and every detail I could remember. They assured me they would investigate the matter, but the waiting was excruciating. While the investigation was underway, I received more messages from the anonymous kidnapper, each one more menacing than the last. They taunted me with Lucky's well-being, claiming that he was safe for now, but that his fate depended on my compliance. Unable to sit idly by, I began my own investigation. I scoured the online forums and social media groups known for pet theft and ransom cases, hoping to uncover any leads. It was a risky endeavor, as I was stepping into the dark world of pet kidnappers, but my love for Lucky gave me the strength to press on. Days turned into weeks, and I received more messages from the kidnapper, each one accompanied by a photo of Lucky clearly showing his distress. My heart ached, but I couldn't give in to their demands. I knew that paying the ransom would only perpetuate this criminal activity, putting more pets and their owners at risk. One evening, as I combed through a particularly ominous online forum, I stumbled upon a lead. It was a mention of a park, and the description matched the one where Lucky had gone missing. A user had posted about a deal they had made recently, and it raised a red flag. I decided to dig deeper, creating a fake online persona and posing as someone interested in engaging in pet theft. It was a risky gambit, and I was cautious not to arouse suspicion. Through a series of coded messages and careful observation, I managed to arrange a meeting with the user who had mentioned the park. As the day of the meeting approached, I informed the police about my findings. They were cautious but supportive, and together we devised a plan to track down the user and hopefully recover Lucky. The day arrived, and I found myself trembling with a mixture of hope and fear as I entered the park once more. Undercover, and with the police watching from a discreet distance, I met the user who had piqued my interest. They were cautious and seemed well prepared for a potential trap, but the urgency of my situation outweighed my fear. I followed their instructions and agreed to the exchange, all while praying that Lucky would soon be back in my arms. The tension was palpable as the exchange unfolded, with the police ready to intervene at the first sign of trouble. My heart pounded, and I could barely breathe as I waited for the moment of truth. Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes revealed the figure of a small, frightened Jack Russell Terrier. It was Lucky, and the relief that washed over me was overwhelming. The police swiftly apprehended the kidnapper, and I was reunited with my beloved pet. The moment was filled with tears of joy and gratitude. Lucky was shaken and disheveled, but otherwise unharmed. The experience had left its mark on both of us, but it had also revealed the power of determination, love, and the support of an online community that rallied to help in a time of need. The kidnapper was brought to justice, and their apprehension led to the exposure of a larger pet theft ring. My experience served as a testament to the importance of being vigilant, seeking help from authorities, and uniting with a community to combat pet theft and support those in need. Lucky and I continued our walks in the park, but we were forever changed by the ordeal. The tranquility of the park had been shattered, but our bond had grown stronger, and we were determined to cherish every moment together. My online journey had taken me from fear to courage, from desperation to triumph, and I was grateful for the lessons it had taught me about resilience, love, and the unwavering support of an online community.